Ever scrolled past a headline online and thought, okay, this one's different, got to check this out?
Yeah, those ones that make you do a double take.
Exactly. Well, that's us today, diving deep into Dude's 9 lessons for a healthier and happier life.
Catchy title.
Right. But here's the kicker. These lessons, they come from a blog about ET contact.
Wait, hold on. Extraterrestrials giving life advice. I gotta hear this.
I know, right? But before you think we've gone full sci-fi, we're keeping things grounded. No debating UFOs today. We're all about the practical wisdom, the stuff you can actually use.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, though, when you think about it, right? Throughout history, humans have always looked to these unexpected sources for wisdom.
Totally. Burning bushes, fortune cookies, and now blogs about aliens.
Maybe it's that open-mindedness, that willingness to find those nuggets of truth wherever they pop up, that makes us human.
I like that. So we've got these blog posts laying out Dude's 9 lessons, separate ones for introverts and extroverts. But our mission today, to uncover those universal truths, the stuff that applies to everyone, regardless of your personality type or your thoughts on little green men.
Sounds like a plan. So where do we start? What's lesson number 1?
All right, so Dude kicks things off with this idea of expressing your life force. And he doesn't mess around. He compares repressing this life force to extinguishing a fire, saying it can actually lead to sickness, both mentally and physically.
Extinguishing a fire. That's pretty intense imagery.
Right. A bit traumatic maybe, but I can't help but think there's some truth to it. What do you think?
I mean, think about it. If you're constantly bottling up your emotions, suppressing your true self, that takes a toll. It's a recipe for stress, anxiety, even physical problems down the line. Maybe Dude's onto something with this whole let your light shine thing.
Right. And it's not just about expressing yourself authentically. He's also big on finding joy in every single experience. And I mean everything.
Every experience, come on, every single one.
Yeah, he even talks about arguments, finding the lesson, the humor in those moments. And get this, he even emphasizes finding joy in sleep, like really savoring it.
Okay, I've got to admit, that one's a bit new to me. Finding joy in paying taxes, maybe, but sloop.
I know, it sounds a little out there. But when I read it, it struck me as a mindfulness thing. It's like he's saying, hey, even when you're winding down, be present, savor it.
I see what you mean. Instead of stressing about tomorrow's to-do list, we should try to appreciate the moment, even if that moment is just drifting off to sleep.
Exactly. And you know what else goes hand in hand with mindfulness? Humor. Which brings us to Dude's next point. Humor is the foundation of caring.
Humor? Really? I've never thought about it like that.
I know, it surprised me too. And not just caring for others, but caring for ourselves as well. That really got me thinking.
Well, if you think about it, humor gives us that much-needed perspective. It helps us not take ourselves too seriously, to step back from all the seriousness and see the lighter side of things.
And when you're not so bogged down by negativity, it's easier to connect with people, to be more present, more authentic.
Exactly. It's like that saying, laughter is the best medicine. Maybe there's more to it than we realize.
Right. And Dude takes it even further. There's this line where he talks about laughter creating this pulse that invigorates life. He even suggests laughing at the absurdity of it all, almost like a Zen practice.
Laughing at the absurdity. That sounds strangely freeing.
Right. It's like instead of getting caught up in the chaos of life, we can choose to find the humor in it. Laugh at the messy, beautiful weirdness of it all.
Okay, I'm starting to see where he's going with this. It's about shifting our perspective, changing our relationship to our experiences.
And speaking of relationships, Dude doesn't just talk about our relationships with other people. He also emphasizes the importance of choosing activities and relationships that truly nourish us.
So being mindful about who we spend our time with and how we spend our time.
Exactly. And his advice is pretty straightforward. If it's not serving you, ditch it. And that goes for work, relationships, hobbies, the whole shebang.
Easier said than done, though, right? Like quitting that soul-sucking job or ending a friendship that's run its course. Sometimes it feels easier to just stick with what you know, even if it's making you miserable.
He actually addresses that. He says that while leaving can be tough, staying in a situation that's no longer serving you, that's the real killer.
He's got a point. It's like we get stuck in this cycle of inertia.
It's that sunk cost fallacy thing, right?
Yeah.
We cling to those things we've invested time and energy in, even if they're no longer bringing us joy. Like those jeans we swear we'll fit into again someday.
Or that friendship that feels more like an obligation than a source of joy. We've all been there.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
But Dude's saying, hey, pay attention. Our bodies often know before our minds do when something's off.
It's those gut feelings we often ignore.
Exactly. He uses this great example of starting a new job. You meet all these new people, and if there's someone who consistently makes you feel uncomfortable, irritated, even physically uncomfortable.
Your body's trying to tell you something.
Right. He's saying the discomfort is data. It's information we need to pay attention to.
It's like our intuition trying to guide us toward what's best for us.
Exactly. And speaking of guidance, Dude doesn't sugarcoat things when it comes to making choices. He actually says that most people can't even grasp the concept of making sense of life, let alone actually doing it.
Wow, he really goes there. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But when I read that, it was like this wake-up call. He's right. So many of us are just coasting through life, reacting to whatever comes our way, instead of consciously choosing the life we want to live.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to go through the motions without really asking ourselves, is this what I truly want?
And that's where Dude's next lesson comes in. Mastering our emotional volatility. He's basically saying that if we want to make conscious choices, we need to learn how to handle those moments when our emotions threaten to send us into a tailspin.
So what's the secret? How do we do that?
Well, get this. His solution is surprisingly simple. Shift your focus to your heart. Feel your breath.
Wait, that's it. Just breathe.
It sounds almost too easy.
Right.
But he emphasizes that it's not about changing anything, it's about observing. He says, in those moments when your emotions are about to go nuclear, close your eyes, tap into that heart space, and just observe your breath. Don't try to control it, don't try to change it, just be present with it.
It's like hitting the pause button on an emotional roller coaster. It's like he's saying, instead of letting your emotions run the show, you step back and become the observer.
Exactly. You're not denying your feelings, you're just choosing not to get swept away by them. And you know what's interesting? Dude suggests this doesn't just calm you down. It can actually affect those around you too.
Oh, how so?
Well, he talks about how our energy, our emotional state can influence the space around us.
Space? You mean like the actual physical space?
He describes it as both energetic and physical. Like when you shift your own energy, it creates a ripple effect, changing the vibe of the room and even influencing how people react to you.
That makes me think of emotional contagion. You know how emotions can spread like wildfire? You walk into a room and you can just feel the tension, or maybe it's excitement, but either way, you end up feeling it too.
Exactly. It's like that tense meeting at work. Or maybe it's an awkward family dinner. But imagine if you could be the one to shift that energy.
Be the calm in the chaos.
Right. You calm your own inner storm, and suddenly everyone around you can breathe a little easier.
It's a powerful reminder that we have more influence than we realize. Our energy, our emotions, they have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And speaking of impact, Dude takes this idea even further with his lesson on making conscious choices.
This is where things start to get really interesting.
Right. Because it's not just about being mindful of our emotions. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we show up in the world. But Dude doesn't sugarcoat it. He straight up says that most people just bumble through life reacting to whatever comes their way instead of consciously creating what they want.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but I think he's trying to shake us out of our autopilot mode. He's challenging us to step up and become the architects of our own lives.
So how do we do that? How do we go from reactive to consciously creating the life we want?
Well, he provides this really cool exercise for tapping into our intuition and making choices that feel aligned. It involves paying attention to where in our bodies we feel a particular choice.
Oh, wait, what do you mean feel a choice in our bodies?
Okay, so imagine you're facing a big decision. New job, relationship, whatever. Dude says, close your eyes and ask yourself, where do I feel this choice in my body? And then pay attention to the sensations that come up as you consider each option.
Okay, so if one option makes your stomach clench.
Exactly. And another makes you feel light and expansive. That's your body talking to you.
So it's like our body has its own wisdom. It's about learning to listen to those subtle cues, those gut feelings we often ignore.
He actually uses the phrase body wisdom. And you know what I love about this? It takes the pressure off our overthinking minds.
Because sometimes we can think ourselves into circles, right?
Totally. But this is about going beyond logic, tapping into a deeper knowing.
It's like that saying, trust your gut. Maybe there's more to it than we realize.
Right. And he doesn't just stop at physical sensations. He also encourages us to visualize each choice, to create those mental images and notice how they make us feel.
So you're adding an emotional layer to the decision-making process. It's not just about what makes sense on paper, but about how each choice resonates with you emotionally.
Exactly. Does it spark joy, excitement, Or maybe it brings up anxiety or dread. Our emotions are powerful guides.
And they can tell us a lot about whether a particular choice is in alignment with our deepest desires.
Exactly. And while Dude acknowledges that sometimes unconscious choices have their place, like deciding what to have for breakfast or what to wear each day, he says when it comes to those big life decisions, that's where conscious choice is key.
So we're talking about those choices that shape the trajectory of our lives, careers, relationships, the big stuff.
Exactly. And I think that's such an empowering message. We're not just passive passengers along for the ride. We have the ability to grab the wheel and steer our lives in the direction we want to go.
It's about taking ownership of our lives, becoming the creators of our own destiny. And this is where Dude's cosmic perspective really throws us for a loop. He takes this idea of conscious choice and connects it to the creation of alternate realities.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. This is where things get really wild. So, Dude introduces this concept he calls conjoined space, and he explains that our big choices, the ones fueled by intense emotions, can actually create new spaces.
Hold on, back up. New spaces. You mean like ultimate
Oh,
realities?
you got it. It's
Yeah.
like every decision we make creates a ripple effect that branches out into the multiverse. So instead of just one timeline, one version of reality, our choices create branches, new possibilities.
Okay, I'm going to need a minute to wrap my head around this. We're talking parallel universes here, like the stuff of science fiction.
I know, it sounds crazy too.
Yeah.
But Dude's explanation is actually very matter of fact. He says these spaces, these realities, they're not out there somewhere. They're woven into the very fabric of existence.
So every time we make a choice, big or small, we're splitting off into a new reality.
That's how I understand it. And he doesn't specify which choices create these spaces, but he does say they're fueled by intense emotions.
Intense emotions. So those moments when we're really feeling things deeply, those are the ones that have the most impact.
It seems that way, yeah. And you know what I find both exhilarating and a little terrifying? It makes you realize just how powerful we are. Every choice we make ripples out, creating a new reality, a new possibility.
Okay, so big question here. And maybe Dude doesn't have the answer. But if what he's saying is true, does that mean there are countless versions of ourselves out there, all living out different possibilities based on the choices they've made?
Right. Like, what's happening in the reality where I chose a different career path? Or where I said yes to that date? The possibilities are literally endless.
It's a mind-blowing concept to consider. And it also makes you wonder about those what-if moments, the paths not taken.
And that's what I love about Dude's teachings. They really challenge you to think differently, to question everything you thought you knew about reality. But at the same time, there's a simplicity to it. Like, yeah, it's about finding joy in the everyday, mastering your emotions, making conscious choices. But then he throws in this whole cosmic perspective that just blows your mind wide open.
It's like he's saying, hey, life's a trip. Embrace the mystery, the unknown. And honestly, I think that's a pretty great way to approach things.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dude's 9 lessons, I want to hear your takeaways. What really resonated with you?
What struck me the most is that it doesn't really matter if you believe in extraterrestrials or not. These lessons, these nuggets of wisdom, they stand on their own. Finding joy, expressing your authentic self, mastering your emotions, making conscious choices, those are things we can all benefit from, regardless of where they come from.
Beautifully said. Dude's words, they're a reminder that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places, even in a blog about ET contact. So to our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Dude's 9 lessons. Remember to embrace those what-ifs moments. Make choices that light you up. And who knows, maybe you'll even create a few alternate realities along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.